Two police officers storm a house, hearing the voice of screaming. One of them finds an unconscious girl tied up on the floor. He hears a noise and turns towards a door. The second police officer is still checking the house when he hears a gunshot, then a masked man attacks him. However, the police officer has him on the floor in no time. He goes in search of his partner and finds him on the floor with a gunshot wound. The shot police officer tries to warn him of the masked person behind him. The person tries to stab him with a knife, but he shoots him in the head. It turns out it's a dream. The man wakes up beside his wife Brenner Baker, who's driving them to the countryside for a getaway. While driving, a man starts honking at them from behind, then drives beside them. The man tells them that he loves the woman, regardless of the fact that there's a man sitting beside her in the car. She flips him off, and her husband finds it funny. The man drives away. They go to a diner for food. Her husband goes to use the restroom while she's given a table. He dresses his stomach wound from the fight he had in his dream, which is very much real. The man from before comes into the diner with two other men. He notices her and tells her that she wasn't friendly on the highway. She tells him that he was being an asshole. Dylan returns from the restroom, telling them that they don't want any problems. Butch tells him that he should swing at him so they can settle things, but just then, an elderly woman, Mama, joins them. She asks Butch and his guys if they came to eat. She tells them to sit down, which they do. She asks them what brought them to town while she takes their orders, to which Brenner answers that they are just traveling away from work. She tells them to order whatever they want, and their bill is on Butch. Butch protests but accepts the decision. Brenner's husband tells Mama that they can take care of their bill, but she insists, so Brenner tells her that she would like dessert too. Now back on their way, she thanks her husband, Dylan, for saving her back at the diner, and he replies that he was saving the men, not her. A lady sees Brenner and Dylan camped out. She warns them about the locals not being friendly to outsiders, so they should stick to the trails before she leaves. Brenner and Dylan go hiking together. The rain begins, and they see a house in the woods. They go into it and have sex. Mama attends church. The rain stops. Brenner notices a hidden room, which she gets Dylan to help move the large wardrobe. She finds a hidden door with guns inside. Dylan tells her that they need to get out of there, but just then, Butch hits him on the head with a gun, and he goes unconscious. Brenner wakes up to Dylan being tortured by Butch and some men. He asks a bloodied Dylan who sent them. Dylan tells him that no one did, which gets him punched. Brenner, who is restrained, tries to stop them from hurting Dylan. One of Butch's men calls him outside. He tells him that the couple is not with the feds and that they are camped out somewhere. Butch realizes that he was wrong. They aren't spies. He instructs them to get rid of their things. One of Butch's men, Jesse, who is going through Brenner's bag, steals her smartwatch. Butch goes back into the house. He apologizes to them for being wrong but shoots Dylan in the head, and then he shoots Brenner next. He tells his men to dump them in a shallow grave. Their bodies are dumped and they are left for dead. Brenner wakes up after dreaming of her training days as a ranger. She removes her restraints and the duct tape on her mouth. She cries seeing her husband dead. She leaves her necklace with him, then covers him up with dried leaves, and climbs out of the hole. She goes back to the campsite she had set up to find it. She remembers all that had transpired, and she heads out with an axe to look for the people who killed her husband. Butch and his men are being served food in the morning by fearful females. One of them mentions that he had told them to keep Brenner so she could work in the kitchen for them. Mama meets up with them in the kitchen. Brenner makes pointed wooden sticks with the axe. Butch sells guns to some people. He is asked if he isn't going to check the bag of money they gave him, and he replies that it is between him and Mama. Brenner goes back to the house. She kills one of the men, enters the house, and then the hidden room. She remembers entering with her husband. She picks up her axe from where she had it hidden and heads out in search of the others. She finds some of the men trying to get fuel from the storage and she attacks them. She kills one of them, then tortures the other one to get information, but he doesn't give any. Then she lets him run after cutting him so he can leave a trail of blood. She sets fire to the fuel storage, causing it to explode. A hunter is about to shoot a deer, but the deer runs on hearing the explosion. Mama and the boys hear the explosion. She tells Butch to go check on the men they had sent out for fuel. The hunter sets out in the direction of the explosion. Brenner trails the bleeding guy, Jesse. Butch drives to the location to find Jesse bleeding with a rope on his neck. He tells Butch that Brenner is alive and that she had killed his partner. Brenner sneaks into the back trunk of Butch's vehicle. Butch arrives at the compound, and Brenner comes out of the trunk. She hides and watches the house. Mama slaps Butch for shooting Brenner and not even killing her. She tells him to make things right, and he leaves to go find Brenner. She sends one of them to check information about Brenner. They find out that she is the first female ranger, which makes things worse. The hunter turns out to be Sheriff Hobbs, the town sheriff. He sees the man Brenner had killed and calls it in. Brenner makes wooden stakes in the woods. The next day Sheriff Hobbs, along with some other officers, checks the dead man. They identify him as one of Mama's boys. They tell the new sheriff that Mama owns most of the land there where she runs things differently, The sheriff's secretary calls Mama to inform her that Earl was dead, and that Sheriff Hobbs was coming to see her. The sheriff arrives at Mama's house. He informs her about one of her men dying, and she tells him that the dead man has been depressed lately and she was afraid something like that would happen. She claims that he took his own life, but the sheriff finds that hard to believe because the dead man was stabbed in the ribcage 6 times. She claimed that Butch and Jesse had seen him do it. Mama tells Sheriff Hobbs that if that is all they have, there are funeral arrangements to attend to while moving into the sheriff's face with Butch and the other man. He tells her he would be needing a statement, and that they can come pick the body from the coroner's office after they conduct an autopsy. She tells him that she knows because she had been informed already by the coroner, who happens to be her cousin. The sheriff and his men leave. Mama tells Jesse that she doesn't want the sheriff coming to the house anymore and that they would celebrate Earl, but by tomorrow she wanted Brenner dead. They make a bonfire, and Mama gets them toasting to Earl. The guys pass out after some drinks, though they wake up so they can head to bed. Brenner ambushes Butch, they fight, and she slits his throat, killing him, then she hides his body. In the morning, she eyes her Jeep in the compound with plans to check inside it when she watches a girl being dragged into a house by a topless man. She instead goes inside the house after the man leaves to find 3 girls kept in a cell. They are startled by her. She promises to take them out of there. She opens the cell and they start sneaking out only for one of the girls to alert the men. Brenner and the other 2 girls run, but one of them gets shot in the head and she dies. Brenner throws a metal rod at the man with the gun and she runs away with the other girl. Mama is told that Brenner is in the compound and that Butch was dead. Brenner and the girl are chased through the woods. Mama asks for a man named Hanks to be called, and also the dogs should be let loose. The man chasing Brenner and the girl shoots at the girl. Brenner goes to help her. The man tells her that she is no better than the girls they keep in the compound. Brenner cuts loose one of her traps, which in turn stabs the man in the chest, killing him. Jesse meets up with them, and Brenner shoots him with a gun. Mama's guest, Hank, arrives with his men. He sees the man who Brenner had thrown a metal rod into the eye, and he comments that Brenner's methods were hardcore. Brenner and the girl, Emily, make a fire that night. She asks Brenner how she knows how to fight, and Brenner replies that she was in the military for some time. She asks Brenner if she could teach her some things, and Brenner agrees, telling her that it might take some time. She tells Emily that she would get her out of there, and Emily tells her that she is pregnant with Butch's baby, which means it's Mama's, which means they won't stop until they catch her. Brenner tells her that she is sorry for what she had gone through and they don't deserve what happened to them. She tells her that she wasn't going to leave her there. Emily tells her that she is not the first, neither would she be the last. Brenner asks her what she means, and Emily tells her that every 2 months there is a shipment and they are sold. In the morning, Brenner hears Emily scream from where she was washing up and she runs to her. Emily is being dragged by some men. She kills them but is told to drop the gun by the sheriff, which she does. She tells him that they are on the same side of the law, and just then a man appears with a gun. He shoots the sheriff in the thigh, and Brenner kills the man. She checks his wound, and she tells him he will live. She ties a belt to reduce bleeding, and she turns to leave with Emily, but Emily doesn't think they should leave him there. Brenner tells her that he is not her problem. Brenner agrees, and they carry the sheriff out of there. Hanks and his men get to the place to find dead men. He calls for the dogs to be brought, and they go after Brenner. Brenner keeps the sheriff somewhere. He asks her what was going on, and she tells him to find his way out of the woods or he would be killed. Brenner and Emily pass through the river. Hank finds a bloodstain on a leaf, and he lets others know that she is in the river. Brenner and Emily cross the river. Hank goes after them but the dog loses their smell. Brenner sees a vehicle coming, turns out to be someone she knows. She asks for a ride out of the woods. Emily tells the lady that they need to send help to the sheriff who is wounded in the woods. They fall asleep, only to find themselves in Mama's compound. They drag her out of the car but she doesn't go easily. Mama tells Emily that she took care of her but she repairs back in a bad way. She sentenced Emily to death. Brenner tells Mama that she was the one that dragged Emily, thinking she could use her as a ticket out of there. She asks Brenner if it's really true that Emily wanted to stay. Brenner tells her that she had told Emily that if she got her out of there, she would help her start a new life with her baby. Mama asks Emily about her being with child, and Emily answers that she's with Butch's child. Mama tells them to put her back into rotation, and Emily is taken away. Mama tells Brenner that she trespassed on her land, killed her boys, messed up her operation, and caused her money. Brenner tells Mama that the last thing she would be seeing is her bullet between her eyes. She tells Hanks to take Brenner away. Brenner comments on her watch, and Mama replies that Jesse gave it to her. Brenner is tied up in a room. The guys talk about her. One of them wants to sleep with her, and he is warned that Brenner is very tough. They talk about Mama wanting to keep Brenner so she can break her. In the morning, Mama asks Emily how long she had known about her pregnancy and she replies that she has known for a little while. Mama tells her that she doesn't believe Brenner's story. She tells her that she only kept her there because of Butch, and when the baby is out, she will be sent out. Brenner remembers the time she was kept in captivity when she was still in the army. One of Mama's boys gives Brenner water while the one sent to watch her is sleeping. The sleeping guy wakes up and he sends the other guy away. Emily asks the guy who gave Brenner water if she is okay, and he tells her that she is. Brenner tells the guy tasked with watching her that they are all like cockroaches. He replies that he doesn't care about her husband and that if he was there the day her husband was killed, she would be dead too. Brenner taunts him to come at her, which he stands up to do with his intentions being sexual, but Emily comes into the room right on time with his food. He tries to get mad at Emily for interrupting, and he attempts to rape her, but Brenner brings back his attention to her, giving Emily time to pick up a knife and stab him multiple times. Emily goes into shock. Brenner yells her name to snap her out of it. She tells her to use the knife to cut her loose. Emily frees Brenner, and Brenner then tells Emily to hide under the bed because she was going to clean house. Brenner kills Hank's men and then some of Mama's boys. Mama arrives at the house to find dead men, and she heads to the room Brenner was kept in. She finds another dead person, and she's just about to leave when she hears a sound from under the bed. Brenner encounters Hank, who points a gun at the back of her head. He pushes her down and tells her that he would be killing her swiftly while he was stepping on her hand. She shoots him dead before he can shoot her. Brenner finds the man who had given her water, and she shows him mercy. She tells him that she is giving him one chance to walk away. Mama comes to the room with Emily, who has a sharp object at Emily's neck. She tells Brenner that she is very resilient and a smartass too. Brenner tells her to stop and that she shouldn't do anything to Emily, that Mama is the only one left. Brenner is suddenly stabbed from the back by the man she had shown mercy, and she shoots him in the head. Mama uses the sharp object to pierce into Emily's neck, making her bleed. Brenner shoots at her, but she makes a run for it. Brenner goes to Emily, who is bleeding out from her neck. Emily dies, and Brenner tells her that she didn't deserve it. A wounded Brenner opens her car and ignites it to leave. 3 months later, Sheriff Hobbs gets a phone call from Brenner, telling him that she might be needing him from time to time. Mama is seated outside her house when she gets a message on the smartwatch, telling her that today is Judgment Day for her. As soon as Mama raises her head, she is shot in the head. Her blood splatters on one of her boys. Brenner, who's camouflaged herself in the bush, smirks. She enters her vehicle and drives away.